Looking at what happens today, my God, like what Hegel would be bothered is deeply is this strange new functioning of ideology, which is no longer a direct mystification, but you at some abstract level know the truth. General truth, like we are approaching a new catastrophe, ecological, social catastrophe, world war, whatever. But nonetheless, although we know it, so I don't worry about deniers, those who claim there is no ecological threat. I worry much more about those who admit it all the time, but say it, debate it publicly in such a way to make it sure that nothing will be really done. That's the beautiful paradox of talking a lot about something, not to mobilize people, but quite the opposite too, so that they remain immobilized. So Hegel, I'm not saying Hegel is simply a pessimist, but Hegel was always aware that if there is a historical progress, it's always through a repetition. Things go wrong, then the second time is the crucial time. But this opens new questions. For example, do you have it? It's not a rhetorical question. Do any of you have a notion even what is happening today in China?
In China? You said?
People's Republic, the big one,
like for some, you're referring to specifically what?
Yeah, like economically, politically.
No. What I mean, Deng Xiaoping's reforms and today's reforms. Yes. Yeah, I
post-Mao China.
Yeah, post-Mao. Yeah, I don't think the simple story is Deng Xiaoping wanted to liberalize it, but then and so on and so on. It was much more ambiguous, and the deadlock is much deeper. I think that what she is doing now, the new leader for 5 years, in a way, he is not an idiot. If you look, I did, at his statements and so on, he is aware of the problems. That's why I even wrote a short text on Wang Huning, which is the brain of his group. You know that Wang Huning was in United States some 20, 30 years ago for a whole year, and he was fascinated by capitalist dynamics, but at the same time, he saw all the problems of social disintegration, racism, sexism, and so on. And so the problem was, to put it very naively, can we have this, under quotation marks, good side of American dynamic without paying the price? I doubt this, but that was their crazy optimism. The danger I see is that it comes uncannily close to a new form of fascism, because this is old fascist dream, to keep capitalist dynamics, but under social control so that you avoid social disintegration and so on and so on. So along these lines, I didn't, provide any exact definition, but maybe I will go into it. I would like to link back to your initial question, Hegel's dialectics. It's not true that in Hegel, the end of the story is always good, happy. No, Hegel it's incredible if you read Hegel in detail, literally, not under the shadow of all these wrong progressist readings. And you know who is today, I wonder if you would agree, the great enemy. Although some of them are personally my half friends. This, let's call them liberal Pittsburgh Hegelians, for whom Hegel is not so much metaphysics, but more recognition is their big work, social recognition, reconciliation through recognition. But wait, the first thing to note is, and here you find death drive already in Hegel. Hegel begins talking about humanity in his encyclopedia, third part, Philosophy of Spirit. At the beginning, it is what he calls, I think, anthropology. To be brutal, his point is, how did humanity evolve out of animal social life? And you know what he begins with? Madness in clinical sense. He said that it's a, and this is his name for, he said that one of the many who are saying that humans are disoriented animals. You lose these roots in instincts and so on and so on. You are disconnected. This is madness. And then all so-called human culture, collaboration, emerges as a reaction to this madness. And what is so fascinating, read it. Hegel literally says, this doesn't mean that we all should become mad, but it means that madness remains to the end as a threat. It's not simply aufgehoben, sublated. It always remains as a threat. And don't forget that Hegel, here we should move beyond Hegel, of course, at the very end of his system, his philosophy of history, when he describes his type of a ideal state for that time, he ends with war, with necessity of war. So this self-destructive madness explodes again. And what I find here so fascinating in Hegel is that he knew very well that there will be horrors in history, blah, blah. He says literally that philosophy can only grasp a system when it is already in its decay. No plans for the future. But all that he does is nonetheless described in his critique of liberal economy and so on, the potential threats that he sees in the existing system. I think that this is needed again more than ever today, because obviously the system in which we live is bringing us to a catastrophe. And the first step before we go into building some utopian plans is to see what really is wrong with this system. It's, as Hegel would have put it, fundamental contradiction. But back to your point, in this sense, I think for Hegel, death drive and dialectics are two faces of the same. Death drive means precisely that dialectic is not this some simple progressive movement and so on and so on. Death drive means this scattering radical negativity, which at the same time, I developed this in my books, I'm sure you know it. Death drive is paradoxically, if you read it closely, even in Freud, who introduced the notion, death drive is in some sense another name for undeadness. It's some negativity which survives death itself, which insists. And again, this was clear with Freud. Even if Freud was confused, he often slips back and reads death drive. He even once says this is nirvana, this Buddhist eternal peace. No, death drive is precisely a negativity which persists beyond life and death. And this is important today with all the temptations that we have for some new peaceful order and so on and so on. Death, we can only understand what goes on today at the level of social life. For example, let's move, I will stop immediately, don't yet kill me. Let's move to social life even